Welcome everybody, welcome to the first annual Silicon Valley Business App Awards. My name is Nick Pinkerton, and as you can probably tell by my lack of facial hygiene, this is the No Shave November edition of the SVBAs. We've brought you here to recognize some of the most outstanding business-to-business applications of this year, and to really commemorate what the developer community is doing for the B2B ecosystem. We're thrilled to have received, I think, over 60 submissions from businesses, most of whom are based here in Silicon Valley, but in other places as well. People who have traveled, far and wide just to be here today. So we thank you. We're also very fortunate to have this wonderful group of leaders here to my left, our panel of judges, and I will go ahead and introduce them one by one as they judge me on my terrible pronunciation of their names. We'll begin with CEO and President of RICO, Dr. Nikhil Balaram. Stand up, say hello. Yeah. Director at IHS, Vinita Jakanwal. EVP of Products at Regalix, Greg Sherwin. Group Manager of QuickBooks Web and Mobile at Intuit, Amanda Linden. President of Grio, Douglas Kadlicek. I got it. And Senior Director of Worldwide Business at Synopsys, Rajiv Maheshwari. We also wanted to recognize Baxar Roy of Playphone, who unfortunately couldn't make it. He had the flu, but we wanted to give him a shout out, as well as Sean McCleary representing DocuSign. All right, I will just quickly bring you up to speed with our event for the afternoon. So we have selected a group of particularly outstanding apps that will, companies who have developed these outstanding apps that will present today in front of us, so you'll get to see what those apps do, what some of those features are, and what some of the challenges and discoveries came along the way. So we'll be dividing this into a couple of presentation groups. There will be a 20-minute intermission between the first and second group, where, if you're in the audience, you can go ahead and get up and get food and drink and whatever. And then once all of our presentations are done, there will be a 30-minute period where our judges will determine who the best, who would, is the best company out there with the best app, so the killer app. During this time, during the presentations, we ask that you stay in your seats and remain completely silent because we don't want to hear from you. That's just me talking about your phones, by the way, so just remember to put them on silent unless you're like, really that important. The best part about today is that you, the audience, will be determining one of our award recipients. You'll notice that we've passed out these little sheets that have all the nominees from today, and that's where you'll indicate who you think is the most deserving of the best overall app. Our keynote speaker for this afternoon is a pioneer in connecting people, devices, and information to improve the ways that we access and use information, communicate, and work together. He has expanded this infinite network to cover several verticals, including healthcare, retail, consumer matters, and one more. I almost got that one. Anyway, from RICO Innovations Corporation, please help me in welcoming President and CEO, Dr. Nikhil Balaram.
Thank you, Nick.
Corporate environments, that was the other one.
Thank you again, Nick. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have to apologize. I thought it was no tie November, so I obviously got that wrong. But I've never been able to wear a tie and speak at the same time, so I think I'm all right as I am. So I'm going to talk to you about a vision that we call the Infinite Network. And it's a vision that was developed at a company that I lead, RICO Innovations Corporation, but is heavily informed and broadened by my positions at various universities. So hopefully what you'll hear in the next 30 minutes is a broad perspective from both an industry and an academic point of view. One request before I get started is that I request that you not make AV recordings. If you want to see a video of this talk I gave a very similar keynote at the British Open, the golf tournament at St. Andrews. So if you just search for Ricoh Innovations and my name, you'll find the video, the officially sanctioned video on our YouTube channel. So a quick outline of the talk. I'm going to start by giving a brief introduction of the company that I run. And it's not meant to be an advertisement, but it's actually falls into the category of practice what you preach. Everything I'm going to talk about henceforth are things that we actually do, that we've actually developed and thought of at RIC. So it's a good segue into the rest of the talk. Then I'm going to define the term, the vision that I mentioned, the infinite network. Then talk about some significant opportunities and challenges. Often these are two sides of the same coin. And then in the last third of the talk, I'm going to focus on something called true mobility. As you'll hear me say, probably the most important trend that is leading towards this vision of the infinite network is mobility. But the infinite network itself is going to bring something that we call true mobility. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it, show you a couple of interesting things. And then finally, I'll wrap it all up with a quick summary. Hopefully, you can all hear me all the way in the back. I'll go pretty fast, but I have only one equation in the presentation. And to compensate for that, I'll show you a magic trick at the same time. Actually, that was the big hit at the British Open, to my chagrin. People came up afterwards and asked me if I could show them the trick again. So Ricoh Innovations Corporation, we develop innovative technologies, create new global businesses for our parent Ricoh. We've been headquartered in Silicon Valley for more than 20 years. We also have a new subsidiary in India and Bangalore. We developed a lot of technology, over 750 patents, and in addition to the stuff that we do internally, we work with a broad suite of companies and universities. Okay? What we have done is we've been focusing on, in particular, on the big opportunities and challenges presented by the infinite network, which is our vision of a future in which all things and all people are connected all the time. And the key approach that we've developed towards these opportunities and challenges is something that we call the deep innovation model. If you fall asleep in the rest of my talk, if there's one thing you take away from it is I hope, a little bit about this particular approach. The essence of it is that in this day and age with technology advancing so rapidly, what we have found is that simply pushing technology isn't enough to achieve major, successful, valuable outcomes for customers, for businesses. What is needed is a combination of three things applied seamlessly together. And that's technology, of course, but an understanding of people or user experience or ethnography, as well as an understanding of business model, and sustainability. So it's that combination that we call deep innovation, and everything that we do uses this approach. So what is the infinite network? All things and all people on the planet will eventually be connected all the time, forming an ever-growing network that is unbounded or infinite in both time and space. As a result, there will be an unbounded or infinite continuum of data that will be produced, communicated, aggregated, analyzed continuously to make the right choices at the right time. It will become possible to do anything, anywhere, anytime. And as a result of that, labels like consumer and office worker will just become states of mind of a person at a particular moment or place. So what are the key trends driving towards this vision? There are a number of them, but perhaps the most important is the one that we're all very familiar with. In fact, it caters very closely to the theme of this awards event, and that's mobility. From a technology side, what we see is a rapid pace of mobile technology advancement. The smartphone, sorry, I'm standing back so I can see my own screen here. The smartphone has become a supercomputing, super sensory, super communication platform. Just look at some of the specs you can see on the right side of that slide. The state-of-the-art application processor has a quad-core 2.5 gigahertz CPU, a quad GPU graphics processor, and full HD audio-video encode and decode. So that's equivalent to a mid-range laptop some years ago, plus a gaming console, plus a HD set-top box, plus a Blu-ray player and a music player, all playing simultaneously. Okay. At the same time, the number of sensors on these systems keeps growing. I think at the last count, there were 18. From a communication perspective, again, as we're all well aware, there's everything from very short range with NFC, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and then, of course, cellular. From a display perspective, new smartphone displays have pixel densities of 400 pixels per inch compared to a monitor that has less than 100. This is density, pixels per inch. Tablets, there are tablets that are already full HD, 1920 by 1080 pixels, and Ultra HD is coming next, 4K by 2K. From a bandwidth, the ubiquity of bandwidth, I think, again, we're all well aware in this room of the kinds of bandwidths that have become possible with 4G, and of course, the new versions of Wi-Fi. And then last but not least, something that is often overlooked is that the technology that storage companies continue to drive their technology as well. And so the next big target is 1 terabit per inch squared. At that type of storage density, it will be possible to carry all 35 million books in the Library of Congress with you wherever you go. And so what that suggests is the interesting idea of rather than a pure cloud-connected mode, where you have a hybrid model where you carry all the static information in the world with you, and then the cloud is used to give you updates and dynamic information. Okay. So that's the technology side. From the market adoption or consumer side, what we see is rapid adoption again. This graphic shows you the installed base of personal computing devices. In blue, in the two shades of blue, you see desktop and laptop PCs, which you can see have plateaued. In the two shades of orange, you see smartphone and tablets, which are growing rapidly. In this year, 2013, the installed base of these mobile platforms will cross the installed base of PCs. But even more startling is the pace of growth, that in 2 years' time, it's projected that the installed base of these mobile platforms will be twice the installed base of all PCs. So hand in hand with this adoption, this migration of devices has been a migration of usage. So this figure shows you internet usage by platform in India, and you can see that mobile internet access, shown in yellow, as of May of 2012 last year, has crossed desktop internet access. It was the first major country in the world where this happened. Again, not surprising because India has the world's largest young population, 700 million people of the age 30 or under, so the kind of demographics most likely to adopt new paradigms. Similar crossovers expected in the developed countries over the next 2 years. So you can see this major shift that is happening through the deployment of mobility and the immense power that is bringing. Okay. So these shifts and many of the other things that are happening around it that I won't talk about today lead to a set of big opportunities and challenges. As I mentioned before, they're often two sides of the same coin. There are obviously a number of books and articles written about these themes, and I've picked 4 that I found particularly useful to cite to you as references in case you want to do some reading about. So the biggest opportunity of all, if I can summarize in plain English, is the opportunity to get the best of big and small at the same time. Using the language of healthcare, it's the opportunity to aggregate big data or to achieve what's called an N of billions, while at the same time being able to look at each individual or customize. Using the example of healthcare, the terminology N of refers to drug trial, and typically N is the sample size, it's typically N of 10,000. But imagine a world where everyone has an electronic health record. So you can now aggregate the information of 1 billion people and see the kinds of harmful drug interactions that in the past have taken 5 years to find out, to see that in a matter of weeks. Again, on the flip side, the opportunity to tailor the solution to each individual's DNA to be able to provide personalized medicine. But the same is true in other fields as well. If you look at education, I think we're all familiar with MOOCs, and the opportunity to create large online courses which use statistics to understand where people have problems in a subject and what time should be spent. So again, using the aggregation of large-scale information while at the same time allowing for an individual student to make adjustments to best match his or her learning style. Okay. So this is perhaps the best and the greatest of the opportunities in front of us. At the same time, from a challenge perspective, it's important to remember that big changes in user paradigms have to be managed very carefully. Training is not the solution to everything. You can't train, in particular, you can't train humans to override what's called the prior model. And the prior model refers to this complex set of rules that we have developed or evolved over thousands and tens of thousands of years to help us make sense of this complex world in front of us. So let me illustrate this from an area of my own expertise, human vision. So for many problems in visual processing, for example, image reconstruction, you have noisy image data, you're trying to construct what the original image looked like. The optimal solution for that problem can be represented as a cost function that you need to minimize. And basically that cost function has a data term where you're trying to fit the data. And then because that data could have gaps or noise, you also have a so-called model term which tries to provide some structure, for example, smoothing or some sort of connections. And the reconstruction is done through using a weighting of these two elements, the data and the model, and with the weighting being adjusted depending on whether the data is very good or very bad. Now this function, which I've termed the universal optimization function, it turns out may also represent very well the way human visual processing works. The image that is captured by human vision in our brain is a weighted combination of the raw image data on our retina as well as the prior model or the rules that we apply to it. So let me show you a very simple example. It's called the size illusion demo, and that's the magic trick I alluded to. And it shows this persistence of the prior model despite training. So I actually have two pieces of plastic here, which you can come and see later. Let's see if it works on an image. But basically, there are two pieces of plastic, and the task in front of you is to determine which one is bigger. So which one looks bigger? The red. Well, let me swap it. Which one looks bigger now? The white, right? Well, make up your mind. Let me repeat the task. Which one looks bigger now? The red. And if you come closer, you'll see it's really startling in person. So clearly you're in need of training. So let me train you. I put them together facing each other. You can see clearly they're the same size. Let me do some more training just in case. So I stack them one on top of the other, and you can see they're exactly the same size. Okay, well, now let's go back to the task on hand. Which one looks bigger? So it's really interesting because no matter, you can train 100 times, but what happens here is the prior model overrides the data, the image that you're seeing on your retina. And the particular rule that's in play here is that we have a rule that says if I have a small edge and a large edge next to each other, the object with the large curved edge is bigger. And that's what our brain sees, regardless of the training we do. So the key point here is, again, that it's very important as we design things to keep these prior models in mind. And that's going back to what I said earlier about not simply pushing technology out, but thinking about all of those three circles. So moving on to the next opportunity or challenge is this debate of correlation versus causality. I think, as many of us know, the use of big data drives a correlation-based approach. That when you have a lot of data, you can apply statistical correlation, you can make predictions, make inferences. But what that does is it usually provides you an answer to what is going to happen, but not why it happens. And so the critical question is, when is this okay and when is it not? Let me highlight with a couple of examples. The top one is from a company called Faircast, which is now part of Microsoft Bing. And what they do is they claim to use 175 billion points of airline data to make a prediction for any particular flight segment you're interested in, whether the fare is going to go up or down in the next 7 days. Should you buy your ticket now or should you wait? And they claim to have an accuracy of over 75% with these predictions. Now the question is, do they know why the fare is going down? They don't. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. It's just the outcome that matters. Let me give you a different example. There was a study done by the University of Ontario some years ago studying premature babies, or so-called preemies. And the study was trying to understand, look at vital sign data to understand if there could be some clues there as to why or when a preemie would suddenly have a crisis in the middle of the night. And the findings, the correlations they found were extremely surprising. They were extremely counterintuitive. And so the question I would pose is that, would you change the medical procedure that you apply for these preemies based just on that without really understanding the causality? My guess is probably not. So these are two examples of where you can use a correlation-based approach and where causality probably still plays a role. The next topic in this category, opportunities and challenges, is the debate between permanent versus ephemeral. With the cost of storage going down essentially to zero, there's a big push to essentially storing everything. And the logic behind that is the so-called option value of data. And it's the idea that you may collect data for one purpose and then years later find that that same data is useful for an entirely unforeseen or different purpose. And there are lots of examples like that. On the other hand, there's the very human element, the freedom to be forgotten. I think as individuals we can well understand and appreciate that in a world where everything is permanent, you face the risk that something you do as a teenager in one day and age, a little moment of indiscretion, can be highlighted 20 years later when you and the world are in a different stage. And so it changes the way we as humans interact if you believe that everything you do is always going to be stored for eternity. There's also the business aspect in terms of if you continuously capture all data, is all data equally relevant? The answer is obvious, it's not. And so arguably you can make better decisions as businesses if you have some sort of expiry date where, I gave a price quote and it's valid just for today. Perhaps tomorrow it should simply disappear from the system. Okay. This is also an interesting way. If you can set up an architecture where there is a way of having an expiry date for everything, it's also an interesting way to deal with privacy concerns, because then you can set the price of your information based on your own needs. Okay, so the last, you can set the expiry date depending on your convenience versus your sense of privacy. Then the last point I wanted to list in this category is the creation of a business model that provides a win-win structure for continuous information flow. In this day and age, we have a situation where a large number of people, all of us, contribute a significant amount of information to a small number of entities who aggregate it and gain tremendous value from it, and in return give us small amounts of things, little trinkets like free email or free search. In a world that I described where everything is connected all the time, this kind of model is not sustainable. We need to have some form of nano-payment architecture that pays for value creation at all scales. So if your translation of a specific phrase from Spanish to English was used in a Google translation that was done for someone, then maybe a tiny amount of credit should accrue to you. And this fundamental approach could address privacy as well, because you could set the price of your information based on how much you value privacy versus convenience. So I ran you through a set of interesting points to think about, opportunities and challenges and dilemmas that we have to deal with as we move towards that vision that I articulated. The only conclusion I can offer you on this section is just that driving technology without proper consideration of people and business is likely to lead to bad outcomes. That in everything we do in dealing with each of these opportunities and challenges, we need to consider all of these elements at the same time. So the last portion of my talk is about mobility and where mobility is going. As I mentioned earlier, mobility is the big trend that's driving us towards this vision of the infinite network, but the mobility that exists today is still very limited. The promise or essence of the infinite network is to have true mobility, the ability to do anything, anywhere, anytime. So I'm going to talk about two elements of true mobility, which I think hope you will find interesting. The first one is doing search naturally, in particular using visual search. And the second one is the next big step forward in the mobile platform, something that we call the Mobile Information Gateway. Okay, so we talked earlier about the migration of internet access from desktop to mobile, but at the same time, searching for information or entertainment on mobile platforms is still very challenging. The keyboard paradigm that works so well for a PC doesn't scale down very well onto the small screen. As a result of that, again, as we all know, various parties have introduced voice recognition. And so far, these voice interactions have had limited usability. Many errors, sometimes it's not clear how to use it, it's not usable in noisy environments. So clearly there is a problem to be solved here. I want to show you an example that was put together by our user experience group. This is a real experience that they had in the store. And it shows you, it highlights the limitations of text search today in mobile platforms. So imagine you're a consumer, you walk into a store, it's Macy's, you see a poster and you say, I like that hat. So you pull out your smartphone, you type what you know, which is Macy's women's hat super style. And then what happens is you go through screen after screen after screen. And after 6 screens, and these are all real screens, you end up with 114 items that you have to scroll through. Now this interaction is not going to end well for anyone. The customer, the consumer is likely to simply give up in frustration. She didn't get what she wanted, the retailer lost a sale. Contrast that with what might happen with a more natural interaction, something we call visual search. She sees the poster, she says, I like that hat. She pulls out her phone, snaps an image of it, and immediately gets back information through visual search, which has all the information about the product, the ability to purchase it, links to social networks so she can ask her friends, what do you think? Connections to other items, special offers, buy the hat and the belt today with a 20% discount. So a completely different interaction that would lead to a successful outcome for all parties, the retailer as well as the consumer. So what is mobile visual search? Mobile visual search connects the physical world with the digital world. The simple natural action of snapping an image can provide access to digital content such as text, video, the ability to purchase, connect to social networks, etc. So we have been working in this area for the last 8 years, and we launched recently a platform that we call OcuTag, which is a web services platform offering visual search. We launched it earlier this year with Disney UTV, the Bollywood arm of Disney, as the lead customer. And very simple interaction, you see something, you snap on it, and you get information or entertainment. So I'm going to show you a video which shows, starts with showing you that basic application, you can all intuit, but then moves on to more interesting things. So the video is very short, so I want to give you a little bit of a preview. So the first segment just shows you the application of the Disney UTV app, where somebody sees a poster, snaps on it, they get back information that Disney provides. The next one shows a more advanced application where you're walking down an aisle and you're snapping on products and you're getting back coupons, information, special offers, whatever the manufacturer wants to give you. And then the third one is more in the nature of simply showing the kinds of things technology can do today. And it's the concept that we call infinite hotspots. We consider a point of interest on an image to be a hotspot. So the example of the model's poster, the hat was perhaps a hotspot, maybe the scarf, the belt, the jacket, the skirt, the boots. So any particular image might have a number of such points of interest, and we call them hotspots. So a very natural one to understand is a newspaper advertisement. This is an ad page from the Times of India. It's slightly shrunk down, but this has 125 advertisements on it. So you could imagine ideally what you'd want is each of them to be a hotspot where if I want to learn something immediately about this, I just snap on that particular ad and I get back a video from the employer, maybe a form that I can populate, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So it has 125 hotspots. So we said, well, so we started with this. Try out the idea of having 125 points of interest in this. And then we started to show off. We said, what if the same thing was this size instead? And then just for the heck of it, we did it with a business card. And so that's what you're going to see in the video. All of these things that I just mentioned. Okay. So all the demos are genuine. The time, it's all shot in, the clips are all in real time. So the responses, the reaction, everything is genuine. Actually, the model is in the audience. So here you can see us snapping on any of these products. You snap on it, you get back instantaneously, you get information. Right. And then the last one is just just to show you where this technology can go. Just picking a particular ad, snapping on it, getting back information. We just arbitrarily tag some information, and then repeating the same thing with the notebook, an iPad size, and then repeating it again with a business card size. Okay, so that was the first of the two items I wanted to talk to you about true mobility, the ability to do search in a natural way. The last topic in my talk is something that is a much bigger step, and it's looking at the future of the mobile platform. We talked about the fact that we talked about the limitations of search because of the small keyboard on a mobile platform, but in general, the human interface remains a big unsolved problem in mobile. Mobility today, to be able to carry this around in my pocket, means that I have a small screen with a small keyboard. Yes, you can get around the keyboard for certain things like search, but what if I want to type a 20-page memo? I'm probably still going to want to go into a place called the office where I have a dock and a full-size keyboard. Similarly, mobility means a small screen. What if I want to look at a very detailed spreadsheet? I'm probably going to want to go into an office where I have a 30-inch monitor and I can look at the details spread out over a much bigger field of view. We talked about the fact that this is a supercomputing, supersensory platform. When I'm standing in a particular location, I can probably do, and it's called augmented reality, I can probably overlay information about the real world on top of the image I'm seeing. But with the smartphone today, I'm going to have to look at the world through a peephole instead of the way I naturally do. And last but not least, in terms of something like 3D, if I'm an architect, for example, and I want to look at the model of a building, and I want to look at it in 3D and be able to rotate it, what I can do on the mobile phone is very limited. I'm most likely going to want to go into an office where I have a professional 3D monitor. So all of these things are not true mobility, the ability to be able to do anything, anywhere, anytime. So we think that the next big change in mobile devices will be in the human interface, driving this transition from a smartphone to what we call the mobile information gateway. And we think that the mobile information gateway will be comprised of two pieces, a mobile compute communications module called CCM and a rich wearable human interface module called HIM. And if that evokes the thought of Google Glass, I can tell you that Google Glass is a very tiny step down the direction of the vision that I'm referring to. So let me dive a little deeper. So the compute communications module essentially is going to be an evolution, a continuing evolution of the smartphone today. the iPhone 15 or the Galaxy 25. So it will provide the same high performance, general compute, graphics, multimedia processing for any type of application. It will run one of the standard high-level operating systems, Android, Windows, iOS, with a huge environment of third-party apps, including all the ones that folks like yourself are developing. It'll communicate with high bandwidth, personal area network sensors, perhaps in the clothes, local area networks, and of course cellular. And it may come in both traditional and novel form factors, still having an appearance like this, or it could be a bracelet or a watch. Okay? So that's one part of the story. The other part, the human interface module, applying the simple logic taught to us by Sherlock Holmes, conclusion is it has to be a lightweight pair of eyeglasses. It's the only practical means of meeting the 4 key requirements: a wide field of view to make a large image, so I can look at that detailed spreadsheet anywhere; the ability to capture and interpret gestures, so I can walk up to any surface and pretend it's a keyboard, or move my hands around and manipulate things; to be able to seamlessly overlay digital over the real world, the whole real world, not the little keyhole presented by this; and then last but not least, providing a path to true 3D, where objects are really three-dimensional, and you can manipulate them and see them as three-dimensional. So we think that establishing this new paradigm will require careful thinking about technology people and business needs, that just applying technology, putting something together and throwing it out is going to lead to a backlash and failure. And we've seen some of those elements, for example, with Google Glass. And so what we've been doing is focusing on vertical applications where the attributes of MIG provide compelling value to all the parties involved. Here's a very simple thing to think about. If I'm going to wear a system that has a camera, then perhaps I should start with applications where I'm in an environment where people are okay with being observed on a camera all the time, right? So it's a simple matter of trying to look for applications where all the attributes and all the value comes to all the parties involved. Okay? So with that, I'll wrap up. A quick summary: the infinite network is coming. All things, all people connected all the time. It brings huge opportunities and challenges, the two sides of the same coin. We believe the use of the deep innovation approach, combining these 3 elements, is essential to achieve successful outcomes. We talked about the fact that mobility is one of the key drivers of this vision, but it's true mobility, that's the essence of it, the ability to do anything, anywhere, anytime. And I talked about 2 key elements, a short step going towards visual search and a very big step towards this mobile information gateway. And the last slide is just to make the point that this vision has big implications for every vertical market. I talked about a few of them: smart consumer, smart retail. There are other areas: office, healthcare, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Balram. And now, right before we begin our presentations for the best overall app, we'd like to learn a little bit more about how these wonderful companies and their apps were selected in the first place, and what some of the judging guidelines were in terms of selecting some of the winners that we'll see today. So to tell us more about that, I'd like to welcome to the stage someone who has been in an engineering and product engineering role for most of his time here in Silicon Valley. Currently at Regalix, he is our co-innovation leader. He was president of LearnStreet, helping launch that. LearnStreet is an online coding language program. And now he dedicates his time as the resident coffee snob. Please welcome Greg Sherwin.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, so having 60 submissions, I really, we all relied on a great judging crew here, and I can't thank them enough, volunteering their time and their professionalism. We had the 5 key categories with business utility, productivity, management, I'm going to miss one: social business and finance. Thank you. Some of the submissions we had were pretty manageable. So what we did is we ended up breaking down to sort of 3 teams of judges, 3 apiece, and some of the smaller submission categories, which had as many as maybe a handful as opposed to some of the bigger categories that had more than 20 submissions, we would allow one of the sub-teams to kind of review, analyze things that we had score sheets for, which included things like, thank you, user experience or the impact of results. Every submission came with a questionnaire that we had different criteria about why it was successful in that category, how it made maybe an impact in the market. And some of the larger categories, like particularly business utility and productivity, we ended up kind of teaming up. So every judge judged over 20 different submissions, and it's the natural system. We all made it work. So we actually were able to collaborate without actually reviewing all of 60 submissions, each of us. So I think, again, the jury for it, we're actually following a similar model, just with the addition of the presentations that you're about to see as part of how we're going to determine the overall finalists. Once again, thanks again for the jury for their dedication in making this all work. So, thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to begin with the presentations. If you're coming up here and presenting, you will have a 5-minute period for that. And then when there's about 1 minute left in your presentation time, Shivani at the back there, Shivani, raise your hand. She'll just hold up a hand and just let you know you have 1 minute left. So we'll have a couple of presentations, give out a couple of awards, and then we'll follow that with an intermission. So our first presenter for today, representing the app DocuSign Inc., please welcome Megan Liu from DocuSign.
Hello. Hope my walk up here doesn't go into my 5 minutes, but thank you for joining me. I'm the manager of mobile marketing at DocuSign, and wanted to briefly go over just an introduction to who we are, what the challenges were, what our solution is, and some of our success. So I think it was a great lead-in in the previous presentation, true mobility, from being able to do anything, anywhere at any time. That's really DocuSign's focus as well. We're a SaaS platform that enables anyone to sign documents, send documents out for signature, and store those documents in a centralized location. The DocuSign app allows you to sign anything, anywhere at any time on any device. We have over 40 million DocuSigners who have signed more than 290 million documents. These documents have been signed in over 188 countries. And the capability of being able to do this at any time, we've seen that 51% of our documents are signed in less than an hour. You can not only do this from our mobile applications, but also through our web app, so from a computer or laptop. So what are some of the challenges in the market of being able, or a paper signature? We see this as there's a lot of time and money that goes into getting the document signed. Everything from paper cost to ink cost to faxing to overnight shipping. The time, the staff required in order to do that. Some people have to drive places, actual travel costs, and just man hours. So once you've got a signed document back, how do you then scan that and digitalize that and file it? There's a lot that goes into that. And just the length of time. I don't know who in this room has been at the end of a quarter and needed the contract signed, and you've heard those words of, it's signed, but I'm not near a scanner to get it back to you, and you're down to the wire. So there's those cases in a lot of different industries. One that DocuSign, a big industry for DocuSign is real estate, and anyone that's tried to buy a house here in the Bay Area, that could be, a 5 minute, you're down to the wire and need to sign the document in 5 minutes. Your wife needs to sign it. Your husband needs to sign it. You're in different locations. How do you make that happen? just the security in general. A lot of people have questions about e-signature security. And with that, the thing that I always throw back is when you print something out, you mail it across the country for someone to sign it. You don't know where it went. You don't know who picked up that package. They sign it, they send it back. There's no trace of what happened. There's no audit trail. So that can be cumbersome in a court of law. And then just proximity, where people are. We're in international business operations now. Some people could be across in a whole other country that you're trying to do business with. And then from our end, what was the challenges of building an application like this? And so really it was, number one, the different platforms out there, as well as the broad user base. So we're going to need to appeal to everyone from an individual consumer all the way up to the CTO of HP. So the solution that we came up with was a cross-platform solution. Although we know that the workforce is mobile and consumers are mobile, we are in front of a computer sometimes as well. So the ability to log in from the different platforms and have access to all of your documentation, all of your signature requests that are pending, that was very important. Also a native app experience, going back to that usability. I just got the 1 minute mark, which throws you off a little bit. We wanted to make sure that it was a good user experience if you were an iOS user, an Android user, or a Windows user. Easy to get started. It needed to be something that you could download, and as a consumer, or my 80-year-old grandmother, she could figure out how to set up a username and password, create her signature, upload the document, sign it, and send it back to who she was sending it to. We also didn't want people to have to, move all of their documents to DocuSign. That's a big hassle. So being out of the box integrated with solutions like Evernote, Dropbox, Box, and Salesforce. And then taking it to the next level of making it a true productivity and utility app. So putting in features that alerted you when someone had signed a document, viewed a document, had returned the document. And then also the in-person remote signing. So with all those solutions, here are our results. We've had more than 1.7 million downloads across the different app stores. We've had adoption in over 35 countries. We've been recognized for top awards from Apple and the Edison's Award, TechCrunch, featured in Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, Mashable. And the most important thing, I think, is what our customers say. So everything from the CTO of Sugar CRM down to the individual consumer and real estate professional about how the app's changed their life has been amazing. So there you go. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
So judges, did you have any questions for me?
One question was just, we wanted to know a little bit about the user interface design for the application for a judging criteria, and I was wondering if you had
More
any slides that
screenshots.
would demonstrate that for us?
We were limited to the 5 slides. I don't. But you can definitely download the application. I could also follow up if you can with some slides or show you before you guys judge. But we didn't have examples across the platform.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it is specific. We designed, iOS 7. We've rolled out the new user interface. Android is Android specific, and Windows as well. So
They're all native.
they're all native.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe describe the process of how a person receives this? Do they receive it by email and then walk me through?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple of ways that people interact with DocuSign. Some people actually discover DocuSign within the app stores, and those are typically individual users or consumers who download the application, have something to sign, they open it, have an attachment in email or something, they open it, they sign and return. The other way is the uniqueness of our customers send out documents through DocuSign, and that in turn is a viral effect that you now may receive an email from let's say your real estate agent needing you to sign documents. You click on that, you can either sign within the application or you can sign online or through mobile web as well. So whatever that seamless experience is for the end user, we want to make sure that it's easy.
Are you looking at this as, so I know this is mostly B2B or B2C, you're looking at C2C as well?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely spans across B2B, B2C, and C2C. And I can give you an example. Let's say, I think it's a good example of personal meets professional, right? So I may be the CTO of Sugar CRM, and I may use DocuSign to send out to our vendors something to sign. That is a B2B example. I may also have to sign my daughter's school permission slip, and that would be, I think, kind of more of a C2C example. And a real estate agent would be more of a B2C example, so they send out the documents.
What have you built in to verify your signatures? Any of us who sign on SafeWay's signature pads can make sure that they're not legible to myself. So what do you do to verify that with your systems?
Absolutely. So we comply with all of the e-signature laws, and we have high security around that. Back to kind of what I was talking about of printing it out and having someone sign it and then getting it back. That really has no audit trail, right? So when someone signs a document on DocuSign, we have a timestamp, we have an IP address, we know when that document was opened, when it was closed, when it was returned. So there's an audit trail of what's happening. We do take identity very seriously as well, so we have different identity levels of checks. So for a consumer who's purchased or signing their daughter's permission slip, maybe doesn't need that as high a level of security, but someone who, American Express, who's sending it out to a client may, and we actually have SMS authentication, email authentication, phone call authentication, so you can set all those different parameters up. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Where are we at? Yes. Our next presenter was going to be Tableau Mobile, but they couldn't make it today. And just as a reminder, you, the audience, will be voting on who you think is most deserving of the best overall app award, so please consider all presentations throughout the afternoon. Our next presenter will be from Big Tin Can, representing the Big Tin Can Hub. Welcome, David Keane.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. First of all, before I start, I want to say thanks to the Regalix team for putting on something like this. I want to say it's about time we had a Business App Award, actually, so thanks for doing that. Okay, yeah, I'll give them a round of applause. Thank you. Okay, so my job is to talk to you about Big Tin Can. So my name is David Keane. I'm the CEO and founder of Big Tin Can. Let's get this all right, rocking. So the reason we're all here, I believe, in this room is because of this. This mobile revolution is not just something that's driving people to go out with a mobile phone and check the weather when they're out and about or look at their favourite sports team, what it's doing, and check their personal email. We really fundamentally believe that the mobility revolution is actually changing the way enterprise customers do their business. It's changing the way they work with their customers, with their suppliers, with their business partners. But maybe most importantly, it's actually driving the way they are focused on building productivity for the people inside their own enterprise. And that's really something that we think is going to be a significant factor in driving mobility rollouts throughout the rest of the next few years. So we've all seen this massive growth in enterprise use of mobile devices, and we're all probably carrying 2 or 3 of them with us today. But at the same time that's been happening, we've been seeing a thing we call the content explosion. And what that means is that for people in business, and I'm sure for many of us here as well, we now have access to so many different content sources. We may have access to sync and share tools, access to corporate systems like Microsoft SharePoint or Salesforce.com, even have access to traditional file server content. The problem for people has been, how do I actually make sense of all that content? There's so much information there for me. I'm trying to interact with it on a device like this, which really often isn't designed to enable me to work with content the way I was doing it on a big screened PC. So we believe the future of enterprise computing is really about this. How do we find a way to bring together those worlds, to enable people on mobile devices to not just get access to content and be able to work with it, but actually to be able to understand the relevancy and the value of that information, to be able to turn it into something that their people in the field can actually learn from and do more with. So at Big Tin Can, our job and our mission has been to build a new platform designed from the ground up for this mobile world. Rather than taking existing technology sets and trying to add on to them or putting front ends to existing corporate systems, we actually built from the ground up a tool set that we would use to enable people to be productive on their mobile devices when they're working with content. And that's quite a major task because we had to think about this completely afresh for every different mobile platform, designed to ensure that we could still connect with existing tools and meet the requirements of the enterprise, because we're targeting enterprise kind of customers. So the first part of that is security. We've got to be able to ensure that we're delivering a secure platform. So I'm not going to go into this in detail during the presentation in 5 minutes, but we've got all the right tick boxes for the kind of security and management people need to deploy this in the enterprise world. But what is important though is, of course, security itself doesn't do anything for a user. What people need to be able to do is get the intelligence to be able to actually work with content and make sense of content on a mobile device. The context to which you use these phones and tablets is so different from the way we've worked in PCs in the past. We now need to think about new tools that can deliver that information in a new kind of way and help people to actually work with it in a better structure. And we need to link that into a social environment. And by social, we don't just mean Facebook and Twitter feeds. We actually mean a way that the value of information, like people work with each other, but can be conveyed and passed on. So I'm able to understand what could be a good piece of content for me based on the system being able to advise me and take me through a journey of information and learning. So our technology, Big Tin Can Hub, what it does is it provides, first of all, a tool that enables you to automatically deliver content out to people on mobile devices. And it supports all the different mobile device platforms and works in an interactive way. But as well as that, it enables users to actually work with content. We really believe that these devices are more than just viewers of PDF files. They're actually tools that could be used to change the way people actually work every day. And so Big Tin Can Hub enables users to work with content, to edit Microsoft Office format documents, to annotate on PDFs, to view different kinds of content, and to share and control that information on their device. And because we built the tool from scratch for mobile, we weren't held back with the old ideas of what content actually was. We wanted to revolutionise the idea that corporate content isn't just files and folders. It's kind of anything people need to be able to use when they're doing their actual job. And that was to create what we call a single pane of glass, so basically a single view to which enterprise users can get access to all the information and content they need to actually do their job. And then we rounded that out with a technology we call content intelligence. And I'm going to be showing content intelligence for anybody who's interested after the presentation. But the idea was, couldn't we actually start to learn from how people work with content? What if we could actually look at the behaviours every individual has around the information they get access to and map that to a social graph of how people actually relate to each other and turn that into what you can think of as big data for content, but turn it into a way of being able to help users to get a bit of an idea of what might be more valuable or relevant to them when they look at all the content they have access to. And that same thing applies both to content publishers who now for the first time want to be able to work with that information and understand how the information they're publishing is actually being used in the real world. So again, Big Tin Can, our mission is to deliver the right content to the right people at the right time and location in a way that users can actually understand and work with that content. Thank you so much.
Judges, any questions?
Could you give me an example of something that your customers have built?
Yeah, sure. So I won't name any customers here, but the principle being, let's say, for example, I've got a field of engineers. And I'm in the field with thousands of engineers right now, and I'm trying to get access to information. So the first challenge I have is how do I push all that information out to people? But then once I've done that, how do I help that person on a mobile device to know what's more relevant to them? They may have 50 different PowerPoints or 20 different manuals or access to different videos that might guide them to a particular situation. So based on the context of the way they're actually working, content intelligence can actually help people to know what might be more relevant or value to them and how they actually work with materials.
So how does your solution fit with mobile device management? Do you subsume that? Do you compete with that?
No, so mobile device management is a specific technology for controlling secure access to an entire device. So we provide the same level of functionality, but for content only inside our container. So we're not a device management platform, we're a content management platform that provides the levels of control and management you need, but over the content inside that platform.
How does your application differ from other competitors in the marketplace?
Yeah. So I guess one of the things about it is that many people have tried to focus on the idea of delivering information out to people in the field. And they've taken existing ideas that have come from the PC or the web world and tried to turn them into mobile solutions. And that was often about things like, how do I send files and folders out to people? I guess our mission was to try and say, in the mobile world, we can't define content in the same way we did it in the past. We have to build things fresh for mobile. That's a lot of work to think about it and build it. But if you do that, you're not then held back by the same restrictions and controls. So for example, we can deliver complete HTML5 applications that run offline inside our secure container. We can deliver interactive forms in the same way that someone could deliver a traditional PDF file or Microsoft Word file in the past. So our goal was to take away those kind of limitations that were delivered or created based on trying to take technology from existing things and port it to mobile. Great. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. Okay, so now we are going to give out our first two awards of the afternoon. And to help me give out a couple of these awards, I'm going to call up somebody who, in my opinion, really embodies the spirit of Silicon Valley here and entrepreneurship. I could tell you about how he helped launch the first online bank. I could tell you how he was instrumental in founding Compliance Online, the largest GRC compliance hub out there. But, you know, I'll just really sum this up in one, you know, heartfelt statement. This is going to just take me a minute. He's my boss. So please welcome everybody, co-founder, president, and CEO of Regalix, Vikas Sharan. So Vikas will be handing out awards. We also would like to call up Greg Sherwin again. So if you win an award, please come up and Vikas will present the awards to you there, and then we'll want to snap a couple pictures of you. So our first award for today is Social Business. Our nominees: City Age by Rarewire, Dream Pro by Dream Commerce, Museum NFC by Mobile People, OccuTag Snap App by Ricoh, Perch Small Business by Closely, and Voxer Business by Voxer. And the SVBA for Best Social Business App goes to Voxer. So we'll have those personally engraved later.
We're going to have these engraved later.
Yeah. The next award we want to give out is the Best Management App. Our nominees: Ignite from Ignite, Good Collaboration Suite by Good Technology, Good for Enterprise by Good Technology, Shika by Safety in Your Hand, and Steer Your Career App by Smart Learning Apps. And the SVBA for Best Management App goes to Ignite from Ignite. All right, round of applause. All right, let's go ahead and continue with our Best Overall App presentations and continue the awards as well. Our next presenter from New Relic, please welcome Anusha Sathuraman, Product Marketing Manager.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having us here today. We're really excited to be here. So before I jump in, my name is Anusha. Oh, I need to stand here, probably. My name is Anusha, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager at New Relic. I work primarily on our mobile product. Let me tell you a little bit about New Relic, just because of the fact that our iOS application is mainly for our customers. It's an app that helps them access data that they get as a New Relic customer on their iPhone or iPad. So New Relic was founded in 2008 by Lou Cerny, and we are a SaaS-based company for web and mobile application performance management. So we monitor the performance of different if you have web applications or mobile applications, whether it's iOS or Android, we would monitor all of these different applications. We are managing tons of data every single day. We collect billions of metrics, and we manage about 8 terabytes of new data every day, which makes it kind of challenging to be able to bring that data into an iPhone or iPad application. We have over 70,000 accounts. So let me tell you about why we decided to build this application. Our customer base is essentially developers and IT operations folks, because we provide performance metrics. So they want to be able to access data anywhere, anytime, and they also want to be able to get notified when there are problem alerts, which is a big part of the iPhone application. So we have alerts that we allow them to set up on the website, and they can, so thresholds for when something goes wrong, they want to be alerted. So then they get the same alerts on the iPhone app, which has proved to be a very, very, very valuable feature in our application. So just to give you an idea of how it looks, that is a push notification, sort of like kind of like how you would get it if you had something set up. So it's telling you that the error rate for this application is greater than 10%. So this is something that the developer would have set up, and then they would get these notifications. Our UI is heavily chart-based, so because obviously we provide visualizations to developers on how their apps are performing. You have different metrics on there. So it's heavily chart and graph-based, which sort of leads into some of the main challenges that we had, especially because we deal with so many metrics on a daily basis. So one account might have hundreds of different applications that they monitor, and that collects metrics minute by minute, and it just leads to thousands and hundreds of thousands of metrics. So being able to pull that into the small screen on an iPhone was really one of the most challenging things. And most of our data is chart-based, so being able to display that in a scrollable fashion in your iPhone application was again one of the other challenges that we faced. But we did get through it pretty well. We started with a lot of private beta tests, and then we also moved on to just releasing a product that had minimum features. And then as we saw people using it, we had users that gave us a ton of feedback, and every time, we would monitor how they naturally tend to use their applications. For example, we saw that most of these users tend to scroll to access historical data, which led to one of the features that we ended up adding, especially in our iPad application, was to be able to just scroll through to access historical data. So what essentially does the app allow people to do? So let me just clarify that this is for our customer base. We have over 70,000 people, and that is who we're targeting. So these are just some of the features that people can do with that. Basically, everything that we can give them on the website, they can slowly start accessing on the mobile side. I'm going to just scroll through because I got the 1 minute mark. Again, like I said, the alerting, that's the main thing that people really love about this application, because they want to know in real time how their apps are performing and if they have problems. So that's a big deal. We recently launched an iPad application as well. So we've been very successful in our application. We made it to the top 20 iPhone business application, top free iPhone business apps at number 13. We've had over 20,000 downloads till date. And we send close to 200,000 push notifications every single day on average. And that is a huge number of active users for our application. All right, well, I made it. Thank you.
Judges, any questions for Anusha?
Yeah, when you're working with developers, how do you get your feedback about the features they'd like to see, or more of the operations people?
Yeah, so we have support teams, right? And a lot of requests go into the support. They would make requests for features, they would make requests on social media, they might know the developers. We do a lot of marketing around our application. We create ads, we do a lot of promoted tweets, targeted campaigns, those kind of things. It is a free application, but it's still an added value to our existing solution. So we have support teams in place that would take requests or anything like that. So that's how the developer would also, if we have a set of sort of like an advisory board kind of thing that people would just want to give feedback, like active users of the application that we want to request feedback from, that would be another way of doing it too.
I'll just restate the question. Mike, back to you. Yeah.
I just have one question. I'm assuming one of your customers is like the CIO, right? Right. So what kind of business benefits have you been able to deliver in terms of, cost savings, or what are the business kinds of metrics they were able to deliver? Because this is excellent from point of monitoring and downtimes and failures and all that sort of stuff. How does it translate to productivity? What kind of metrics do you have?
Okay, so the question was, what are some of the business benefits and how does that translate to metrics?
All right, so like I said, again, this application is really, the idea behind the application is to be able to give developers a way for them to have data anytime, anywhere they are. So we're taking our solution, New Relic, is a performance management solution, which is again targeted primarily towards developers and IT operations folks. Not so much, we don't focus so much on business metrics even on the website. So we're not providing business metrics to them. But the fact that we have an iPhone application and the fact that we have all of these performance metrics itself affects the whole business because of the fact that you're reducing time for them to solve a problem, where the mean time to resolution is definitely reduced with the metrics that we provide, and the fact that we have an iPhone app, so they don't have to go. So, for example, if they get an alert and they have to, maybe it's a pager that they get an alert on, and then they have to go log on to a computer, see what's happening, and alert someone else to fix the problem. But here they get an alert, they can quickly just send a text to a developer and say, hey, okay, this is what I noticed. You got to go and fix this problem right now. So it's it's efficient. That's essentially what it is.
Are you able to configure the alerts on the device itself, or is that something that has to happen separately on the website?
Okay, so can they configure the alerts on the device itself?
So this is something that we have alerts that they can set for different applications, and that is a tool by itself that they go in and set on the website. They set thresholds for when they want to get alerted. So this is something that they initially configure on the website, but then they can go into the application and turn off push notifications if they want to. So it's something that they can definitely turn off on the phone if they don't want to receive it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anusha. All right, then our next presenter, please welcome from Voxer, Nicole Strada.
Hello. I'm Nicole Strada. I'm head of marketing at Voxer. It's great to be here today. How many of you have used Voxer? Yeah, good handful. Okay, fairly representative. Voxer is, of course, has been a free consumer app. It's been around for about 2 years. We had massive trajectory, launched on iOS and then launched on Android. When we launched on Android, we just saw a huge influx of users come to us. We've had tens of millions of downloads. We've had billions of messages sent. And really what Voxer is all about is simple, and it's kind of best to show you really what Voxer is all about. Whenever anyone asks me, I'd like to give them the quick magic trick. I pick a chat to someone, I open it up, I hold I talk, and hopefully as I'm talking, my voice is coming out of someone else's phone. Now, of course, latency in this room would probably be pretty good, but really, we've taken the walkie-talkie and translated it into a smartphone app. And we are now available on iPhone, Android, Windows Phone 8. And the whole premise of Voxer was built out of our founder's mission to improve push-to-talk communication. He was a special forces officer and actually worked in communications. And he would carry 4 of these around during firefights to monitor multiple conversations from different arenas. Now you can imagine trying to monitor 4 walkie-talkies, not an easy proposition. So when he came back from Afghanistan, he decided there had to be a better way. Teenagers can manage multiple conversations on IM. Why not collapse this all into one application? He built the application, and then of course the iPhone came out, and it was time to test it, and clearly it worked. So what's great about Voxer is you can communicate to one person, you can communicate to people in groups, you can share photos, text and location, and that's co-mingled with the voice application. It works on any data network, 2G, 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi. It works across carriers, and it works internationally. So we have up to 200 people, or 200 countries across the globe have used Voxer. And so we felt there was a huge opportunity for us, not just in the consumer space, but in the business space. Think about how many businesses have mission-critical communications that they're dealing with on a daily basis. And the challenges with traditional push-to-talk communication, walkie-talkies, cellular-based push-to-talk is, you know, response is immediate or not at all with those live-only communications. If someone's busy, if they're not listening, if they're talking to someone else, then communication is lost. And also, traditional PTT is interruptive and predicated on availability. So that's why traditional cellular-based push-to-talk has really only penetrated 10% of the cellular market and has kind of constantly been in decline. And it also requires users to monitor multiple channels, which is the problem our founder had. So really, Voxer Business, which is our paid-for application, came to fruition when we had many companies approach us and say, hey, we love your free app. Can you do something for my company? And really that was about creating means of letting them have control and ownership and creating identity for their data. So what we built were 2 things. Voxer Business Manager, which allows you to upload large numbers of users, or small numbers, depending on how big you are, and create employee accounts that can be either with an email or you can create a username. And then also create user distribution lists like email. So we could, you know, segment by that. See employee messages on a real-time map, so you can use location. Every message is tagged with location, so great for monitoring field workers. And then we also have Voxer for Web, which is our desktop-based version. You can send and receive multiple messages on a browser. You can view multiple conversation threads at once, great for dispatchers. And you can sync all of your messages across all devices. So a message, regardless of where you are, at your desk or in the field, is always saved. And then there are a few other key features, the team chats, which are also, you can see, we can create that instantaneously. You can also create it in-app on the fly. Live interrupt mode, which really does turn your phone into a walkie-talkie. The screen goes dead and you can still have a conversation. The voice will just stream live out of your phone. And extreme notifications, which are just loud, repetitive alerts. And then finally, single sign-on, which is great for large companies who have big employee directories and don't want to have to manually upload all their users. So that's really the key features of Voxer Business. We just launched. It's new. So our results are pretty good, considering we have about 8 Fortune 100 companies in proof of concept currently, and some very large government contracts, which if I told you about, I'd probably have to kill you. But that's us. Any questions?
So consider an ideal customer for yourself. what are they using today? Before they, the kind of customer that you think is just right to move to your application, what are they doing today, pre-Voxer?
Well, many of them are using cellular-based push-to-talk solutions. Nextel, Verizon, AT&T all have solutions. The challenge is that with those solutions is they kind of bet against the internet. So they are proprietary. You can only use phones on that network. They are limited to certain devices, so they don't work on all smartphone operating systems. And they don't necessarily use data, which makes it difficult to communicate internationally. So for instance, we have an airline that came to us and said, we really like your service because we're struggling with AT&T in one airport and we need to look at other solutions. So for them, it's an easy win. They can have push-to-talk across all their devices and not have to worry about which carrier that people are on in those locations. And we've seen that kind of repeat itself time and time again. So really, we feel like against the push-to-talk carriers, we tend to win because of the flexibility of the product. Any other questions?
Is there indication through the UI who the message is going out to, and who's available, if somebody's offline, or how do you distinguish who's actually receiving the communications?
Okay, so how do you distinguish who is being communicated to through the messages?
We don't have availability, but what we do have, and we just launched, is read receipts, so you can see if a message has been consumed or not. Typically, we've seen the response time because of the notifications and because it's on a smartphone to be relatively fast. I mean, its average response time is about 8 to 10 seconds to any message. And I guess the great thing about Voxer is if they're not available, the message will still be there. So it's always saved in terms of communication. But no, we haven't really gone down the I'm available route yet.
Any other questions? Judges? All right.
Cool.
Thank you, Nicole. Watch out for the cable there. All right, please welcome our next presenter, Jonas Verdelis from Flexi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jonas Verdelis. I'm founder of Flexi. And I'm glad we had a mention of keyboards and text input in the keynote as an experience that really sucks on mobile. That's what motivates us every day. So we started Flexi really to solve that problem and make typing a pleasure rather than a chore on mobile and touchscreen devices. And we've built a technology that lets you basically type on a touchscreen so easily that you don't even have to look at the screen while you're doing it. And since somebody gave a live demo earlier, I'm going to do the same. It's probably the best way to do it. I'm going to type a sentence without looking and make sure I don't sit here. And I've made it speak so you can hear what I'm doing.
Introducing A. Revolutionary. Keyboard. Technology. Period.
Thank you. So as you've seen, I did that totally without looking. You know, the use case is not necessarily that I'm going to be looking at the sky and texting, but just like on a laptop, you don't have to stare at the keyboard 100% of your time with 100% of your concentration in order to type a simple message. That's what we're trying to bring to the touchscreen environment across a range of touchscreen devices. And the difference in the approach from all your other autocorrect systems that you probably already use is we looked at autocorrect systems, and what they normally tend to do is they look at the letters or the buttons that you press on the screen, and then they try to figure out which ones you pressed wrong. So if you get your normal iPhone, if you get 80% of your word right, it might be able to correct the other 20%. But the thing is, if I'm typing really fast, then I may get 80% of the word wrong, or indeed the whole, every letter wrong. It is very plausible that I do that, and autocorrect systems typically fail in these cases. Instead of looking at the letters, we take advantage of the fact that we have a touchscreen, and we look at your input at a deeper level. We look at where you press on the screen, how you pressed, where you normally press, where others normally press, what's the context of your sentence. We do a deeper analysis of your input such that if you write BDJKP, we understand that what you meant to type is the word hello. And if you look at the keyboard, you will see that that's actually quite close to the word hello. We started 2 years ago peculiarly as an app for iOS, which keyboard technologies hadn't done before. We were an application for blind and visually impaired users to type on an iPhone. Today we have hundreds of thousands of people in this community using Flexi to type every day. So when I say you can type without looking, I know that's the case. And we started on that platform. We started 2 years ago. We launched that 1 year ago on iOS. We've had a lot of recognition. We were Best of App Store last year by Apple, one of the Best of App Store apps, a number of other awards. And really we've spent a lot of the last months getting the technology to be ready to work across different platforms and across different markets, not just the accessibility market. One of the things we have also announced and we're going to be doing later this year is to provide our keyboard as an SDK so that other application developers on the iOS ecosystem can use our text input solution. And with that would be the first time a keyboard company enters the iOS market ever. We've always tried to innovate in different device classes and very excited about wearable technology. If you think typing is broken on a smartphone, imagine how bad it is normally on a smartwatch. We've built our technology to work on smartwatches. I've got demos here if you want to see it, but you can type pretty nicely even on the screen of a watch. And on devices like lip motion and gesture-based systems and three-dimensional systems, which we think will become more popular in the future. And actually, we are the first investment made by the Lip Fund, and we've done a lot of work with these guys. So we've tried to make typing easier, not just in terms of the typing experience, but in terms of the user interface as well. We don't require the user to learn anything new. It's QWERTY-based. You type just like you normally do, and we take care of the rest. But we also have a number of gestures that could make typing even easier if you want to learn them, though they're not required. And we had a limit on 5 slides, and I think I'm just on time, so ready for questions.
Does it require any training with the keyboard, or is it come right out of the box and start working?
All right, so do users need to be trained in order to use the keyboard without looking, or is that?
You understand what I'm asking.
I guess I don't.
So this experience that I've just demonstrated is how it comes out of the box. That's why blind people can use it. Of course, over time, it also adjusts to you, and it will get better based on the sentences that you most typically type, the words that you most typically use, and also it tailors to where you press the screen. So for example, I've noticed that in my keyboard map internally, in my mind, V is a bit to the right of where it actually really is on the keyboard. And it will pick this up over time and get better. But being able to type even without looking, so basically orders of magnitude better or more accurate than your current keyboard should be right outside the box before you even train it.
Can you comment on comparison with, say, Braille Touch and Android Talkback?
How does this compare with other similar apps?
No, 2 specific ones. So I had a student do a study last year on smartphone interface for the visually impaired in India, which has the largest such population. And we studied these 2 items. But I didn't know about yours at that time. So I have some specific data as well.
Braille Touch and Android Talkback were the 2. So these focus specifically on the accessibility community. Braille Touch is probably the second most popular after ours on the iOS ecosystem for the accessibility community. We have tried to focus on a technology that is more universal than accessible. So instead of building something that works with Braille, for example, which would be good for the accessibility community, we based it on QWERTY. So the learnings we get from the accessibility community apply globally. Similarly with TalkBack. which one is faster in terms of word per minute if you are blind specifically, I can tell you we unofficially have the world record with Flexi, and we're working on an official attempt. So.
We have a question? Oh.
Do you support QWERTY only right now? Do you support AZERTY or other keyboard inputs?
Yeah, right. Very good question. So we support it so long as it's touch type based, whether it's QWERTY, AZERTY, QWERTZ, or anything else, the Greek keyboards, I'm from Greece, it doesn't really matter for the technology. We support the layout that, that is supported by its language. So for French, it would be AZERTY, for example.
How many apps have you downloaded?
I'm sorry, can you say that loud?
How many downloads?
How many downloads?
On iOS, around 300,000. On Google Play, we are in closed beta with just over 30,000 users, I think 35,000 now, but it's closed beta. It's very much a testing, not launched yet.
We can't take any more questions from the audience at this time. We need to confine this just to our judges. Thank you for your enthusiasm. All right, thank you. Okay, and now if I'm correct, we'll give out a couple more awards. So can we get Vikas and Greg to come back up? I will announce the nominees here. Adaptive Discovery by Adaptive Planning, Coupa by Coupa Software, Fidelity App from Fidelity Investments, TriNet Expense by TriNet, and Unleash by Unleash. And the SVBA for Best Finance App goes to Coupa from Coupa Software. I will be taking this on Coupa's behalf. I could really use a paperweight. Let me shake your hand. All right. Okay, now a couple of big categories here. Best Productivity App. Bear with me as I announce our nominees. There are plenty. Okay. Appian Mobile BPM by Appian. AutoCAD 360 by Autodesk. Big Tin Can Hub by Big Tin Can. Cloud On by Cloud On. Corporate Meetings Summit Event App by Crowd Compass. Desktop Remote Client by 2X Software. Divide by Enterproid. DocuSign Inc. by DocuSign. Flexi by Centellia. GaugeIn by GaugeIn. Harmony Strategy and Tactics System by Goldratt. Intuit Field Service Management Mobile by Corrigo. MGRC by MetricStream. Mind Calendar by Almander. Project Planning Pro by I2E Consulting. Results by Results.com. CForge by CForge. Send Inc. by Send Technology. ServicePal by ServicePal. Starphone by Star2Star. Teambox by Teambox. VMware Mobile Knowledge Portal by Regalix. Zenday by MobiSystem. And the SVBA for Best Productivity App goes to DocuSign Inc. from DocuSign.
We like making you walk.
Warn me about the in the back.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. All right, one more award we'll give out here. Best Business Utility App. AirWatch Mobile Device Management by AirWatch. AppGenie by AppGenie. Black & Veatch by Black & Veatch. Documents to Go by DataViz. Enterprise Connect 2013 by UBM Tech. Go Payment by Intuit. ICM Mobile by TE Connectivity. Keyvox App by Agnitio. More Power App by One Roof Energy. Mobile Day by Mobile Day. New Relic for iOS by New Relic. NQ Mobile Vault by NQ Mobile. QuickBooks Online for iPad by Intuit, S&OP Analytics by Linear Logistics, SilverShop by SilverTouch Technologies, Snap by Infusionsoft by Infusionsoft, Solar Channel by Impress Media Group, Square Register by Square, Sun Ops Lite by One Roof Energy, Tableau Mobile by Tableau Software, VIP Access by Symantec, and Webelo by Webelo. And the SVBA for Best Utility App goes to NQ Mobile Vault from NQ Mobile. Yeah, nobody from NQ Mobile could be here today, but I guess we'll be.
Go over and get the picture.
Yeah, we'll do that later. All right, please welcome Ignite. Rajesh Ram.
So you can probably guess my name's not Rajesh Ram. We look similar, but not exactly the same. I'm from Ignite. I run marketing. My name's Barry Phillips. Rajesh was called to a customer, so you got to pay the bill sometimes, and that's what he's doing today. So love to be able to share a little bit about Ignite. So we are about 5 years old, about 1 million users of Ignite. Everybody's paid. About 35,000 customers, and about 1 billion files are shared every single day using Ignite itself. So we're in enterprise file sharing. I would separate that from file sharing. Most people have probably used something like a Dropbox or a Google Drive or a SkyDrive, and those are cloud-only solutions. And Ignite's different because we've done some research, and IDG Research actually did this for us, and this was all AT. And about 9% of files today are actually up in the cloud, and about 91%, of course, are behind the firewall. So they're tucked in behind the firewall within, different local storage devices. And as we look to the future, and the study says that about 39% of files will actually get up to the cloud, while 61%, about 60% itself, will actually stay behind the firewall itself. So when you think of file sharing in general, right now you're getting access to the files that you were able to drop into a folder on your Mac or your PC, which of course gets synchronized up to the cloud, and then you can either access that via mobile device or be able to share that with other partners via a link or something else. So the reason why files can't all make it to the cloud is just something we call data gravity. And so some of that is large files. So when you think of construction files, Autodesk 3D CAD CAM files, when you think of large media files, those are just too large to be able to put up into the cloud and actually have an application be able to work with those particular pieces. Probably the biggest one are large file shares. So most enterprises will have multiple petabytes of data. When you think of transferring a petabyte of data up using a regular 100 megabit per second connection, it'll take you 3 years just to be able to get those up there for a file sharing perspective. So even when you get just to a terabyte of data, it's almost impossible to get it up there just for the purpose of file sharing. And the biggest one is really secure files. There's been a lot of talk around programs like PRISM, which is the NSA going in and snooping, being able to subpoena cloud providers and ask for data, and that cloud provider cannot tell the end customer that they've given your data to the NSA, and even brand new programs called Muscular that are out there. And then even just with the file sharing piece itself, we'll do an announcement tomorrow when we've done some research with a group called the Harris Group, Harris Polls. And they will talk about 1/4 of people, 1 in every 4 people probably in this audience, who've used file sharing in a previous company, a consumer file sharing service, still have access to the files from that company. I know I do, so I won't really tell you which company I have access to, but it's a pretty large company, and I can still see the files from when I was there. So those are the 3 big pieces of the reason why it's pretty much hard to move everything up to the cloud. So what Ignite does is give an entire solution. So we kind of separate things into a stoplight piece. Green files are ones that can go up to the cloud. They're small enough. They're marketing files. They're ones that you don't really care if you lose them or they're snooped upon. It could be things like collateral. Red ones are, of course, are ones that are just too sensitive for whatever mechanism, and I've got the 1-minute sign coming. And then I won't go into the yellow ones, but I could talk about them later. Those are the big heavy ones, and so those have to be synchronized between local storage devices, and that way they can be accessed remotely. So really the big piece here from a mobile side is really the green files and the red files, but it's one single user interface across all those particular files. So just from a screenshot perspective, I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but what you see essentially on the left-hand side, you'll see a cloud store, and that can be our cloud store, or it can be any cloud store that's out there, whether it's Azure or S3 from Amazon. And then you have really local file stores underneath there. So you're within one single UI from a user perspective, and of course we have native apps for Android as well as iOS. You can see all the files that you have access to. So if you think of big data trying to remove certain things or just kind of squeeze out little bits of information, imagine what all your files are worth to you. Then of course you've got your list of files. Some of the files here could be things within DocuSign that you're able to share. And of course I can actually share those files and where they are. And I can put little things like I can secure the link, I can put passwords, I can put number of clicks and different things like that. And of course being able to upload and does. So it's an entire app UI built all around the file piece. Any questions?
What are the limitations on file viewing? By that, you're talking about large files and things. On a mobile device, what types of files can you view?
All right, so the question was, are there any file viewing limitations?
Yeah, so we've, because we can connect with local storage and we can sync the two together, we have construction files that are sometimes up to 30 gigabytes that are synchronized across certain pieces. And so whatever that particular device can hold, we can actually synchronize down to it. So it's more of the device limitation than our limitation. The biggest thing is that device can connect over a pretty fast connection and pull that file down as fast as that connection allows.
So is there a utility in the mobile app of just it's more file management versus file viewing, would you say? Or do you understand the question? Are you using this to give access of these files to other people? Is that more the utility of the application, or is it more for viewing files in the enterprise?
So the question's, how do you use the files once you have them on a different device? Yeah, so I normally will access files, review them. I can share them with different people. I've even used this as a secure fax before. I don't really trust sending social security numbers inside email, so I've actually PDF'd a file up, sent it over, expired the link within one click, password protected and everything else. So it enables you to access it, enables you to share it, enables you to view and edit that particular file, whatever it may be.
Is it primarily for use within an enterprise or across between the enterprise and their customers as well?
It's both of those particular pieces. So I can share a file with you. I have special permissions to only share that file within. So the access permissioning piece is just incredible. And I've got full audit reporting to figure out who's accessed it, from what device, from what IP address, all those particular pieces.
So for the files that are stored in the cloud, what are you doing differently from, say, a Dropbox that prevents the problem you mentioned, the human problem of the employee left and they can still see those files?
Yeah, so most companies will have large numbers of folders, right, up to 200,000 that they have. We just absorb all of those folders and all the access permissions to those folders. And that way they just come in. It's about a 2-hour process. If you're even able to do that with, let's say a box, you get to rebuild all 200,000 at a parallel level, all the different access permissions to that. So that's just one particular mechanism. We have built-in encryption for the devices, built-in remote wipe for the devices. We can do device-based certificate access, password locks, all the different pieces there.
How often do your users log into the application?
Pretty much every day, because most people on on a Mac or on a PC will use this as their hard drive, the folder that they access normally. Whenever they make any sort of change there, it automatically goes up to the cloud so they can access it from a mobile device or so they can share it with an external party. Yes?
Are you able to change files dynamically so you've got multiple users in a sort of collaborative way?
Yeah, that's the one thing that you always get confused on with email, right? Email gives you, you'll get into a big file issue within a single email. The second one is you'll fill up your email box. And the third one is versioning. So essentially what we do is send links out, and everybody's collaborating on that same exact file. If for some reason two people open it, we'll create versions automatically, and you can see the different versions of that as they go through. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thought you were going to make an announcement or something. I believe our last presenter for today, please welcome Perry Evans from Closely.
Thank you. So I'm here to introduce you to Perch, which is a mobile application for small business owners, a very different part of the business market. The opportunity for Perch is really helping small business owners deal with the incredible wall of noise called digital marketing. At the core of this is an opportunity that fundamentally is about the transition of digital marketing spend in local advertising from traditional to digital media. And today the reality is that this is being choked by the pressure and intensity and the inability of the small business owner to cope with all of the content of what's happening across social media, what's happening in promotions, what's happening in point of sale, what's happening in loyalty, and et cetera. So what's happening today, if you look at the market, 25 times a month a small business owner gets another sales pitch for a digital marketing product. And to look at the tsunami behind this, there are 2,200 businesses on Angel List who have targeted the small business owner. There's a lot of innovation here, but it's not going to get through. The noise is overwhelming. These are masters of their craft. If you asked a business owner if they consider themselves a good marketer, a small fraction would say yes. You ask them if they're a good digital marketer, you're down to single decimal point percentages of business owners. So we believe that the problem here fundamentally is that the cost of getting the attention of the business is overwhelming and will choke the innovation pipeline of getting through to help them solve their problems. What we've done is really build an application that starts by creating signal from all the noise. We start with the concept of helping the small business watch, and then learn, and then discover. So the core of watching is really about creating a foundation that puts the business owner in the know with everyday, real-time business intelligence and competitive intelligence, and simplifies this the way you have to make it work for a small business. Since we launched last November, we were voted at the SVBA Awards at South by Southwest the #1 mobile business application. Forbes rated us one of 15 must-have applications, and I hope Marketing Land is true, which is this could become a standard app for all SMBs. We've added about 14,000 small business users organically, adding about 2,000 a month. We're about to step that up post a 2.0 release that's in hardening right now, and I'll just give you a quick preview. So put yourself as Vesta Dipping Grill. What you see at the top bar is a panel of my activity and what's happening around me. You'll receive live alerts anytime a consumer posts a review, something happens on social media, a new photo is posted, and below that, your personal watch list of what's happening around you. At any time, you can click on that top bar and see everything happening with your business. And you can see the same thing for your personalized list of competitors. So you can track and follow everything that's happening across those networks in one simple, easy-to-use application. Behind this, and what's really important in terms of the infrastructure leading into going from watching to learning to discovering, is really the starting point. We simplify this by aggregating all of the streams of content that you're familiar with: Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Foursquare, Instagram, daily deal feeds, promotion content. We have 17 other data partners lined up behind this to continue this. When a restaurant menu is changed, how can we alert a restaurant owner that somebody that they're watching just had a menu change, for example? And then we give them the ability to see that, but also then to personalize their own watch list. Nobody's ever captured from the eyes of the business who they compete with, and that's really relevant to helping them learn and discover. And to give you a sense of our business model, to use the classic Silicon Valley model, we're focusing on being a mint for small business. So this is really where we get into the learning converts into discovery. So what we're doing behind the scenes is data mining and giving you a comparative performance view that says, we see what you're doing and not doing. We compare that to what your named competitors are doing and not doing. We watch the trends of consumer activity on you and them. And we can highlight things like, I'll read a couple of examples here. 2/3 of your watch list have more than 3 times the number of followers you have on Facebook. Would you like to learn how to do it better? Another example could be, it looks like your reviews have trended down over the last 60 days. It's important for you to address this. Or it could be, you're a salon owner. Did you realize that 53% of searches for salons today happen on a mobile device? Are you ready for mobile technology? So that's the foundation of what we're building, is really, at the end of the day, creating a connection to the small business owner to help them watch, learn, and discover, and really build a new path to get their attention and to bring relevant, contextual product opportunities to the table for our marketplace partners. Okay? I'll just leave this up there to read while we move to questions. I think I just finished. Okay?
Do you have any competitors in this space right now?
The question was, do they have any competitors in their space?
I think the best way to think about competitors is you've had there's examples of SaaS in reputation management, or there's examples of people building data geared towards sales efficiency. We're coming at it really from the point of view of the opportunity really is around creating a conversational interaction with the business owner and becoming a personal marketing assistant to that owner. Nobody's doing that. The data sources have a lot of similarities across those, but the mentality of a mobile-first application geared towards interactivity with a true business owner hasn't been done before. Okay.
Would you give an example of, you say you provide insights, which I saw,
Yep.
quite interesting, but you also lead them to an action. Would you like to do something?
Right.
What are you doing specifically?
Sure. So the foundation of what we are doing is really, we contrast between a learning action, which could be taking you to a white paper on being ready for mobile, or it could be a specific product opportunity. An example there would be, there's a new service for outsourcing your Facebook marketing, which is a natural something that you would want to introduce the business if they're just struggling on participation trends, or if their comparative performance to their competition is really, out of sorts. Okay. Sorry, you had a question.
What are the quantifiable results that your app gets for small businesses? Do you know that your users are doing better than people who do not use your app?
I would say we don't have that data yet. I mean, we've got lots of anecdotal, but we're pretty early in the process, and the insights functionality is literally just being turned on in this release. It's derivative of, the first 5,000 users we got really close to, and the biggest thing they were looking for is, this is great, it's great for productivity. What I really want to know is, what is the data telling me? And for small businesses, there is no analytics market. This is about insights and actions, not, show me the trend lines and sentiment analysis. That just doesn't mean anything to them. So, yeah.
Are the insight parameters customizable for different businesses?
Yes, most definitely.
So,
Yep.
how are you generating these insights? Because obviously there are companies that have extreme expertise there. And as you know, one of the trends is there are companies that have big data that have decided their value is the data, and they're going to those particular companies to generate the insights from the data. So what is your approach for these insights?
That's a great question. So to rebroadcast it, I mean, there are a number of techniques for how you do big data mining and how you deliver insights from that. We're really just at the early stages of that, and the first generation for us is really trend-based and relative trend-based and signaling those things, but we're also coming at it to be transparent top-down to say we know there are 4 or 5 key themes where businesses are struggling: mobility, participation in social networks, and it can be as simple as data mining their domain name to expose the fact that 4 of your competitors have a .com, you don't, or your URL is 15 characters, it's not going to work in a mobile world. These are still relevant, simple things that are more business-driven, if you will, while we build out more of an analytics framework that's derivative of trend and deeper analytical tools. So just getting started, you're asking an excellent question, and the next hire is aimed at that.
Any further questions, judges? Thank you, Perry.
Okay.
Okay. Before we announce our last 2 awards, we have a few announcements to make, and to do that, please welcome back Vikas.
So before I start the announcements, a quick couple of acknowledgements and thanks. I wanted to thank Nikhil for his keynote. It was very insightful. I wanted to thank the panel of judges for meeting incredibly short deadlines and doing a lot of heavy lifting. There was a lot of work the last minute. I wanted to thank the organizing team, in particularly Namita Sethi. She can raise her hand. She organized the event. She did that from India remotely, so it was an amazing skill of organization and teamwork. And her entire team, lots of them that I can't cover all of them. Greg for setting the judging guidelines and coordinating with all the judges to making all this happen. And specifically 4 interns over the summer that conceived of this award and did a lot of work in terms of putting it together. Shubhankar, Anish, Yuni, and Priya, 4 of them. So that. All the nominees, there were some very, very exceptional apps. Some of them won, some of them did not. But it was amazing to see the diversity in the nominations that we received. Apps, some that Nikhil covered as a part of RICO's OcuTag, which is innovating in how devices would handle visual search, different ways of input. Another app that didn't make it from Magnitio, which I thought was pretty cool, which has voice authentication. Apps that are innovating in the small and medium businesses, ServicePal, and a whole bunch of other apps that for various reasons are worthy of recognition. What we are doing is we are compiling all the nominations into an ebook, and we'll be publishing that ebook. It's a very extensive work. It's over 300 pages and does justice to all the nominations that we've received. So that book, stay tuned. We will announce the publishing of that ebook very shortly. We also wanted to make a couple of announcements of 4 future awards that we plan to host next year. One would be similar to the one that we hosted this time, focused on mobile apps. Another focused on web apps, social apps, and the last one focused on devices. And we're beginning to see a lot of very interesting business-to-business devices come to market, and this is the time to recognize and appreciate another category of awards. We are also launching a special by invitation only club called Co-Innovation Mavericks. This would be a team of experts in different disciplines working in different companies where it would become a think tank of experts that would be available to different companies to offer advice, to look at very finite focused innovation challenges and help those companies innovate. And I know that we have a few more awards and presentations and everybody's waiting for them. And I promise not to spend any more time. So I'll let Nikhil come in. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Okay, so to give out our last two awards here, we'll bring Dr. Nikhil Balaram back to the stage here.
Okay.
Our Audience Choice Award is.
So the Audience Choice Award goes to Okitai. Can resist. To Flexi. Congratulations. Because you're going to.
We get in with the photo with them as the Audience Choice winners.
I'm never shy to.
This is for Audience Choice, we'll just pull the photo. You stand here for the camera.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll engrave it and send it to you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, congratulations. And we thank everybody who voted there. All right, and the moment we've all been waiting for, the best overall app. We just want to acknowledge the 9 nominees that we received for this. Big Tin Can Hub from Big Tin Can, DocuSign Inc. from DocuSign, Ignite from Ignite, Flexi by Centellia, New Relic for iOS by New Relic, NQ Mobile Vault by NQ Mobile, Perch Small Business by Closely, Tableau Mobile by Tableau Software, and Voxer Business by Voxer. Dr. Balaram, if you would please.
Yeah. And the best overall award goes to Voxer Business. Okay. And it always helps to have a demo as part of your presentation. So, congratulations.
All right. Congratulations. We'll have you pose with us in a photograph.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
All right.
oh, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll get you one all great.
All right, we want to say thank you to everybody who came here today and everybody who put in a vote for the Audience Choice Award there. I believe that that's it for the SVBAs this time. You're welcome to stick around and finish the food and drink that we have here. And we hope to see you early next year for when the SVBAs continue. You can follow us on Twitter at SVBA Awards. Pretty easy there. And just stay tuned for more announcements coming from us. Once again, thank you so much, and we wish you a great rest of your week. Thank you.